you have, as you mentioned, talked about some of these major topics, though, on your channel with guests and yourself, whether it be consciousness, the beginning of everything, which we've talked about a lot today, but also you mentioned aliens in there.
Yeah, that's a requirement in podcasting in 2023.
It's a total fucking requirement now. But, I have so many open-minded thoughts on that. And you want to talk about stuff you don't know. I mean, my God, the whole thing is stuff you don't know. But we've seen a lot of news this year. We've seen congressional hearings, which in many ways are unprecedented as far as the scale of what we saw this year with Grusch and stuff like that. But as a scientist, have you seen anything that points to, I'm not going to say definitive proof, but strong evidence to show, first, that A, we are the simple one, we are not alone in the universe, and B, that some of these things that are being reported, the phenomena actually are true and did happen?
Yeah, I mean, the most contentious part of my interview with Joe Rogan was about this topic. And it was interesting because I think there's a lot that we agree on, and then there's a lot that he will just use kind of these tropes and superficial arguments, which I've heard for a long time, which aren't, truly superficial in that they've been attributed to luminaries and heroes of mine like Carl Sagan, which is basically, I call that like the surface area argument. There's so many planets, there's so many stars, there's even more than Carl Sagan ever knew about, when he died in the 90s. And he used to say, if there's nobody out there, it's an awful waste of space. Well, I told you, I've been to Antarctica, and I've been there twice, and it's not a very happening place, and it's not happening in a lot of different ways. One of which ways is that there's about 300 people there in the Antarctic winter, which is our summer in the northern hemisphere. There's about 300 people on the whole freaking continent.
Are there any restaurants there?
There are military bases there, and the military bases supply food, and there's about 12 different countries that have different military bases there.
Are we sure it's just a base? There's not a little something below there? Not like, the descendants of Hitler hiding or some aliens or some shit?
No, they have plenty of places to go in South America, it turns out.
Yes, that's unfortunately true.
Yeah, so when you go there, you basically resign yourself to not seeing any other, people besides the 49 people that might be in your particular military research base. Where we go in the United States owns the South Pole because they're doing scientific research there. You're not allowed to mine minerals or construct military airfields there. It's just the military built the research facilities because they're the best for logistics like that. So when you go there, there's basically almost no. And now, not only are the only life forms that you see at the South Pole human beings, there's absolutely no other forms of life, effectively. In other words, you don't see birds flying overhead or penguins walking by. The South Pole is 700 miles away from the coast. So it's incredibly remote. And Antarctica itself was only discovered like 150 years ago in the late 1800s. People never discovered it until then.
I've never looked into that.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, holy shit.
They never reached the South Pole until 1911. It's less than 100-year-old, continent and it's just barely been explored. Now, if you just said the same Sagan argument that it's a waste of space, you would say that, well, Antarctica must be a waste of space because there's only 49 people on the whole, 200 people on the whole continent. The whole continent only has 200 people on it. It's the size of like 3 Texases. Okay?
But it's so small relative to the universe.
No, but I'm just saying, just take there's 8 billion people on Earth, right? There's trillions of microbes on Earth, right? Trillions. You're more microbe than you are human,
but
right?
It's fucking cold down there.
But so what? We know what we've learned about life is that life finds a way, right? Like Jeff Goldblum said, life finds a way. Life works. You didn't think about what you should do. You just thought about what you could do. So channeling my Jeff Goldblum.
That was pretty good.
So yeah, and we guys stick together. So when you think, but when you make that kind of argument, you're assigning what's called a uniform prior. You're basically saying that like the probability for life should be the same everywhere. In other words, we are a form of life, and then any other planet like Earth should be basically as probable to find life there, right? If I told you there's an identical copy of Earth, forget about like what else is there, if there were dinosaurs there or not. If I just said there's an identical copy of Earth and it's in some other solar system, Proxima Centauri b, okay? And I said, it's identical. It's the same distance from a yellow type star. It's in the habitable zone. There could be liquid water there. There might not be liquid water. There could be ice there. It could not be ice. There could be carbon dioxide. What would you say the odds are that life would exist there? Would you say it's 0? I mean, you definitely couldn't say it's 0, right?
It's not 0.
Right. Would you say it's 100%?
No.
No, so somewhere between, okay? And that's all you can say, right? Zero, no life,
If you talk
100%.
about not proximate, holy
Right,
shit.
exactly.
Yeah.
So now you look at that and you say, well, look at the planet Mars. And I made this analogy on Joe Rogan. Mars is right next to an Earth-like planet. In fact, it's very Earth-like because it's Earth. Earth and Mars exchange particles for billions of years. We've been exchanging material. I have a meteorite that I didn't give to Joe Rogan, and I'm not giving it to you either, but it came from Mars. It didn't just come from the supernova that blew up that made this one that I gave you at great cost and personal risk to myself, bringing it through customs. And
I got to put that through something.
Your mass spectrometer here. But despite that, there's no life on Mars. You can say, well, Mars is different. It used to have liquid water. It used to have, abundant liquid water. It still has frozen water. It has carbon dioxide. Was that evidence for life? I mean, if we see carbon dioxide on another exoplanet, we think it's potential evidence for life. Sure. It certainly doesn't forbid it. So for all these reasons, there's some probability that you should say that if life is abundant in the universe, there should be life on the planet literally next door to the only planet we know for sure has life. And yet there's no evidence for life now. There's not even evidence for life that existed in the past. That in itself is not proof that life never existed there or that life couldn't exist there in the future. But again, we can only go with what we say right now. If I put a gun to your head and I said, I'm going to take away all the YouTube Plush Studio and your play button and everything, I said, I'm going to put a gun to your head. What is your factual knowledge, not your belief? What is the evidence for life outside of Earth? What would you say it is? It has to be 0 or 1. What would you say, with 0 or 1?
I don't think I can say 0 or 1.
You wouldn't say 0? I mean, is there evidence for life?
I'm saying if you're saying the answer can only be yes or no, is that what you're referring to there? With 0 or 1?
Yeah. Is there definitely life outside of the Earth or definitely no life outside?
I couldn't say either.
Really? There's evidence for life outside? I mean, have you ever seen evidence for life outside of the Earth? Because I haven't.
That's what I'm saying, though. We only know such a limited amount because we haven't even gone to Mars yet, and it's a planet right next to here.
We've sent rovers and stuff. Yeah, no, I agree. But the fact is we only have evidence for life on Earth. In other words, if I say to you that there's life on Mars or there's life anywhere on any particular thing, it only makes the probability a little bit bigger to say that there could be life. Right? You're basically making this argument that because the universe is so big, there could be life in the universe.
Okay, but what if within our solar system, let's say across our planets, there's no real life on anything else, which is a distinct possibility. That is one solar system in the context of a galaxy, in the context of a series of galaxies, in the context of a universe that we can't even know the limits of. And I've always thought it's incredibly narcissistic to assume that out of everything, this place with the 8 billion people and the lions and the elephants and all the animals and the fish in the water, this is where the life is. And there isn't, forget just life, but there isn't a brilliant life form that exists somewhere else. I find that incredibly hard to believe, also considering the fact that creation had to start somewhere. And why would the creator, whoever that is, whether it's the God that's written in one of the holy books here or something like it or whatever it may be, why would they put, and again, this is an evidenceless comment, to be very clear, just a meta thought comment. Why would they put the only life so many infinitesimal layers away from where they exist? I find that almost impossible.
I think you're over-indexing on the pocket that says we're nothing but dust and ashes. And
how do you figure?
You're saying that we should have humility and say that it's impossible for us to be the pinnacle of creation. Well, who knows? Maybe you should have the other pocket that said the whole universe was made for you, not just humans. It was made for you to do some grand mission. That's the notion of these two pockets. One is I'm nothing. I have to have humility and be humiliated sometimes and make blunders that lose me the Nobel Prize. The other one, I have to say, this is cosmic feast, a buffet of infinite variety that's made just for me. And for me to extract pleasure and happiness and make other people happy and extract pleasure for them.